As we continue on this week's edition of Inside Eagle Nation, your all-access look inside Georgia Southern athletics, we step into what the week ahead looks like for Georgia Southern baseball as they will head down to Acadiana to take on the Ragin Cajuns of Louisiana. And who better to talk to about the Cajuns than the voice of the Cajuns, Jay Walker? What's going on, buddy?
You know what? The weather here has just been beautiful for about a week now. We almost don't know how to act. The humidity Friday and Saturday was like 23%, which you never see here. So we're all in a really, really good mood right now, but we'll see how that changes this weekend.
Probably in a really good mood as well, because you just took 2 out of 3 from South Alabama this weekend. And I know that's a series that means a lot to Cajun fans, and especially to take 2 out of 3 at the Teague. That's a special weekend.
It is a special weekend, Colin. And I'll tell you, after watching them, this is Mark Calvey's 11th year, and I think this is his best team. They've got, 3 weekend starters that have logged between the 3 of them about 700 innings in their careers at South Alabama. So it's a veteran pitching staff. They've really helped themselves offensively from a year ago. They're still a tremendous defensive team. And of course, they're very well coached. The Cajuns played well. And they were able to go ahead and get 2. And I think that was great. I'll say this, though. The intensity of this series reminded me of the good old days. And Charlie Nichols, the sports information director at South Alabama, agreed because he's been there 13 years. These teams got after each other over the weekend. Crowd was into it. Players were into it. Coaches were into it. It was just a lot of fun. I remember when we played Southern Miss earlier this year in a 3-game series, we lost 2 out of 3, and I left there saying, God, this is going to be such a great rivalry. And I got reminded what a great rivalry South Alabama is. And to be able to get 2, it made it for a satisfying weekend, especially for our fans.
Before we dive into what the Cajuns look like this year, want to get your take on Sunbelt baseball as a whole. You've seen a lot of Sunbelt Conference baseball, and you talk about the good old days when this was a 2 and 3 bid league in baseball side of it. This year looks like you could have the potential of a multi-bid league, maybe a 2, maybe 3 bids this year with Texas State doing what they're doing. What have you seen be the growth of Sunbelt baseball this year?
I think you've got 2 balanced leagues, if that makes any sense. I think you've got a league with Coastal Carolina, Georgia Southern, South Alabama, Louisiana, Texas State, and maybe ULM, because I think they're a lot better. And then I think you have a league with Georgia State and App State and Arkansas State and UTA and Little Rock. That's not to say that those teams aren't better, because I think some of them are better, but I still think there's a line of demarcation in this league. And I think it's pretty much 6 and 6 right now. I think when those top 6 play each other, it's going to make for some very, very interesting weekends, because I think that all 6 have got the potential to be right there at the end. And when those schools play each other, the ones that can win on the road are going to be the ones that are probably at the top of the league. And I should have included Troy in that as well. And that was the team I forgot to mention. If you can go into their house and get 2 out of 3, that's like sweeping somebody else. Yeah. And I think those series are going to be really, really interesting this year.
You talk about the series between a couple of different teams. This series between Georgia Southern and Louisiana has been one. I know you and I have talked about it a lot. Danny talked about it a lot as well. This has been really good series for Georgia Southern. Haven't had a true weekend series against the Cajuns for the Eagles since 2018, but have seen each other twice in the tournament since then. What is this? I know what we say it is from the Georgia Southern side, but from the Cajun side, what does this series between Georgia Southern and Ragin Cajuns look like?
There was a time, I guess it was late in the last decade, where, no, it was probably even earlier than that, when the Cajuns would play Middle Tennessee in a regular season series, and the Cajuns would usually win the series. And then it was Middle Tennessee that knocked the Cajuns out of the tournament every year. That's kind of what this reminds me of. I think when the teams have played on the weekend, it's been pretty even. When the teams have played in the tournament, it hasn't been. And so, yeah, I think that's kind of the way I look at it. It does remind me of the series that we used to have with Middle Tennessee.
This is a series that Georgia Southern hasn't been to Teague Field since 2017, at least not to play the Cajuns. Saw it in 2018 in the tournament. But remind Eagle Nation, and Danny and I have talked about it, probably people getting tired of us talk about it, what the atmosphere around Teague Field is going to be like this weekend.
Well, the good news is softball's out of town. This past weekend, we had some nice crowds at the Teague, but softball was home too. And they had 1,500 people at their games. So I think that's got a chance to surpass that a little bit. The Cajuns are going to announce 4,000 plus at every game because they've got over 3,000 season tickets sold. Regardless of whether all those seats are full or not, those that are there are very passionate about their baseball. There are traditions in that ballpark that are sacred to our fan base, whether you're talking about the Cajun Cooking Club or Mr. Vic the Peanut Man or the seventh inning stretch with center field or any of those things. Section A that, Georgia Southern players are going to feel the brunt of this weekend. And one of the things that I've noticed this year with this particular ball club is the crowd adrenalizes this baseball team. We've been a much better team at home, and we've been a much better team at home because you've got, as far as actual people in the stands, 2,500 fans or more that are just really into it from the first pitch to the last pitch. They love their baseball here in Lafayette, and they look forward to when good teams come to town. We've already seen Cal Irvine. We've already seen Southern Miss. We've already seen South Alabama. We've already seen Houston, and now Georgia Southern's coming in. So it's been a great home schedule so far, and our fans will be ready for it again this weekend.
Dive into this 2022 version of this Ragin Cajuns team. Offensively, Carson Rockefeller has been fantastic. 363 average, leading the league with 31 driven in. What is it about his game that he's kind of taken to the next level?
I think that, Matt Deggs will tell you he's playing up to his capabilities. He came in and Deggs just raved about him a year ago, and he had a good year. But he is really, he's playing all conference baseball. He's playing potentially hitter of the year baseball. He's been really, really good. And it doesn't matter if he's faced it left-handed pitching or right-handed pitching. He's hit everybody. He's got a lot of clutch hits. He's having a great year. I'll tell you, this particular lineup, Colin, is probably the most athletic lineup the Cajuns have had since the 2014 team that was ranked number 1 in the country. Now, I'm not suggesting that they're as good as those guys. I'm saying they're that athletic. And, some guys are still trying to find themselves from an offensive standpoint. But this team is athletic. This team is going to put pressure on the opposition. When they get on base, they're going to run. And it's going to be up to you to throw them out. And the Cajuns have been good at manufacturing and stealing runs this year. Now, they have been missing their leadoff hitter, Max Marshak, who pulled an oblique in the 5th game of the season. And he just made his first appearance this past Friday. And in his first at bat, he walked, he stole second, he stole third, and he came home on a ground ball. Now, when you can get a run in your very first at bat without getting a base hit, that's a pretty good thing. Marshak, I will say it right now, not having seen anybody in the league. He's the fastest player in the Sun Belt because he's probably one of the 2 or 3 fastest players in Cajun history. He can run. And if he gets on base, he's going to run. And he's kind of a catalyst for the rest of this team because they say, well, look, he just stole a base. I can steal one too. Cajuns have already stolen almost 50 bases this year. And they're going to be on pace to steal about 120. And they're not going to stop running. Now, you can't steal first base. You got to get to first base first. This team doesn't walk enough. They need to walk more. And they're not hitting for a very high batting average right now. Of course, they faced awfully good pitching. But they're going to put a lot of pressure on you when they do reach base. and it's something that they really enjoy doing.
Switch over to the pitching side. The starting pitching for the Cajuns have been a little bit hit or miss the last few weeks, but you've had guys like Jeff Wilson, Tommy Ray in that weekend rotation. What does this weekend rotation look like in 2022?
Who knows? Because the rotation hasn't looked the same at all this year. I thought it was really interesting that over the weekend, Matt Deggs started senior. Started Brandon Talley, who's preseason relief pitcher. Started him on Friday night. Jacob Schultz, who was in the back of the bullpen, started on Saturday, and Jeff Wilson started on Sunday, as he has all year long. I think that Seth Thibodeau, the Cajuns' new pitching coach, has been trying to figure out which guys belong out there in which order. And I think senior was done on purpose. They want veterans out there to get things started and get this team off to a good start. There are guys in the bullpen who are very capable, but a lot of times the problem has been not getting off to a good start. And I thought that the staff over the weekend did a good job of that. The pitching staff is still too generous. They walk too many people. They hit too many people. But they've got guys who have good stuff. And, Bo Bonds came in on Friday night in relief of Talley. Talley went 4 2/3, pitched very well. Bonds got 16 outs, and 14 of them were strikeouts against the toughest team in the league to strike out in South Alabama.
Yeah.
So you've got some guys who are capable. I think it's just been a question of putting square pegs into square holes and round pegs into round holes. And I think when they figure that out, I think the pitching staff will be okay. It's been inconsistent because I think the roles have been inconsistent. But I think that the coaching staff's starting to figure it out. Got a long way to go yet, okay? There's no Connor Cook or Spencer Arrighetti on this team. But they do have some guys who are capable. Just got to find the right role for them.
There's somebody that I wanted you to talk about that doesn't get, I don't think, nearly the amount of pub that he deserves. And that's Anthony Babineau, somebody that's been there for more than a quarter of a decade for this Cajuns team in a lot of different roles. And I know somebody that's very near and dear to your heart. He's the chief of staff on a piece of paper, but there's a lot of different things that he does for this Cajuns program. What does Anthony Babineau mean to this team?
Gosh, if you ask Matt Deggs that, prepare yourself for about a 20-minute answer. Because Bab does so many things. You're absolutely right. Everything that's on the periphery is his responsibility. And look, this because you've been around the game for a while. When you become a head coach, the biggest part of your job becomes administration. Well, Matt Deggs doesn't have to worry about that because Anthony Babineau takes care of all of that. He is there all day, every day, on the weekends. He's working 7 days a week. But he takes care of all of the things, with exception of meeting with the media. He takes care of all of the periphery that comes with coaching this baseball team. He takes care of travel. He takes care of, in some cases, raising money so that way we can have a charter flight to Appalachian State. He is the guy who does all of our scheduling. And I asked Matt that when he saw the schedule for this year, why he didn't fire Bab on the spot, because such a difficult schedule that the Cajuns have. But no, he does all of that stuff. And Matt would go crazy if he had to do all of that, I think, because Matt wants to coach baseball. He wants to teach hitting. He wants to create chaos on the base paths. He doesn't want to worry so much about what hotel are we going to stay at. Bab, let us know what hotel we're going to stay at and we'll be there. No, he does so much that nobody sees.
You alluded to it just now, a tough schedule for this Cajuns team. The record, not necessarily where you would want it, 11-12 overall, but I think that's indicative of what this schedule has looked like. And I think you see how much it's paid off already last weekend against South Alabama, taking 2 out of 3.
I told you about the schedules that we had at home with Houston and Southern Miss and Cal Irvine. Also played on the Round Rock Classic, where you played Stanford, Indiana, and Arkansas. You still have 2 games at Louisiana Tech. You still have a game at LSU. You have a game this week in the middle of the week against Southeastern Louisiana, who's always got a good club. And then you've got the rest of the conference schedule. Now, the Cajuns don't play Coastal Carolina this year, but it's a war every weekend in conference play. But yeah, this is one of the tougher schedules the Cajuns maybe have ever played. And Matt Deggs, although he didn't fire Bab because he didn't have a problem with the schedule, he likes the schedule that we played this year.
Looking forward to this weekend, 3 against Georgia Southern and the Ragin Cajuns at Tigmore Field and Russo Park in Lafayette. Cannot wait for this weekend. Can't wait to hang out with you and Top and Craig and everybody down there. But looking forward to it.
It's going to be an awful lot of fun, and the Cajun Cooking Club has been warned that you're coming.
Oh, fantastic. Appreciate it, Jay.
All right, man. Thanks, Colin.